Many of us spend our lives searching for joy in material things such as money, luxury, social status. But the truth is, happiness is not something we find outside of ourselves. It's a choice we make every day, deep within. Today, we'll embark on a journey through a profound story that teaches us the essence of happiness. So, hello and welcome to Way to Enlightenment, where we share timeless stories of wisdom, spirituality, and inner peace. This story of two men, along with Buddhist teachings, will reveal the true secret to lasting happiness. So relax and allow the wisdom of this ancient tale to guide you toward a better understanding of happiness. Long ago, in a prosperous kingdom, a wise and compassionate king ruled. This king loved his son, the prince, dearly. The prince had everything: a palace of gold, exquisite clothes, delicious food, and an army of servants at his beck and call. He lacked nothing, yet something troubled the king deeply. Despite all these luxuries, his son was constantly anxious and restless. The prince would spend his nights sleepless, his mind filled with fears of losing what he had. His heart, instead of being filled with joy, was consumed by worries. The king, in his concern, sought advice from his ministers, wise men, and even healers. He tried everything: more luxuries, grand feasts, and even entertainment. But nothing seemed to bring lasting happiness to the prince. As a last resort, the king decided to visit Gautama Buddha, who was renowned for his wisdom and ability to help people find inner peace. The king traveled to the monastery where Buddha resided. Upon arriving, he found Buddha surrounded by peaceful monks. Their simple robes, bare feet, and serene faces contrasted sharply with the grandeur of the palace he had left behind. Yet, despite their humble appearances, these monks radiated a deep sense of contentment and joy. Bowing before Buddha, the king spoke, "Buddha, I come to you with a heavy heart. My son, the prince, lives in a palace filled with wealth and luxury. He has everything one could desire: riches, power, and comfort. Yet, despite all this, he is never happy. He is always anxious, fearful of losing his possessions and status. On the other hand, I see your monks who own nothing. They walk barefoot, eat simple meals, and live in small huts. But they are always at peace. How can this be? What is the secret to their happiness?" Buddha listened with compassion and, after a pause, smiled gently and said, "Your Majesty, true happiness is not found in what we possess, but in how we live and what we choose to let go of. Allow me to share with you the story of two men, Tanha and Vipaka. Their lives will help you understand the true nature of happiness. Once upon a time, in a serene village nestled at the edge of a great forest, there once lived two men who were neighbors. One was named Vipaka, a humble farmer, and the other was Tanha, a wealthy merchant. Though they lived close to each other, their lives and hearts were very different. Vipaka was a simple farmer who lived modestly. His home was small and unadorned, and his possessions were few. But Vipaka had learned a valuable lesson. Happiness does not come from what you have, but from how you live. Vipaka understood that just as a farmer reaps what he sows in his fields, a person reaps the results of the seeds they plant in their heart. He knew that if he planted seeds of desire, he would only harvest more craving and dissatisfaction. But if he planted seeds of contentment and gratitude, he would harvest peace and joy. Vipaka lived a life of simplicity and gratitude. He accepted whatever came his way with a peaceful heart and did not cling to things that were temporary. As a result, his mind was always at ease and his heart was filled with joy. On the other hand, Tanha, driven by insatiable desire, was constantly chasing after more wealth, more possessions, and more power. He believed that the more he accumulated, the happier he would become. His home was a grand mansion, adorned with the finest luxuries one could imagine. He surrounded himself with servants and beautiful things, but his mind was never at peace. Despite his riches, Tanha was always restless. The thought of losing his wealth filled him with fear. He was constantly worried that thieves might steal from him, or that his business might fail, or that misfortune might strike, no matter how much he gained. it was never enough to quiet his anxious heart. One day, Tanha invited Vipaka to see his newly built mansion on the outskirts of the village. As they walked together, Vipaka noticed how Tanha kept talking about what he still needed: a bigger garden, more servants, more riches to collect. Vipaka paused and pointed to a lush field of crops. He asked Tanha, "Do you see these crops, Tanha? They thrive because the right seeds were planted and cared for properly. But if I had planted only weeds, what do you think would grow?" Tanha laughed and said, "Only weeds, of course. Crops come from good seeds, not weeds." Vipaka smiled and said, "Exactly, my friend. Life is like this field. The seeds you plant in your heart, whether they are seeds of desire or contentment, determine what you will harvest in your life. Desire, like weeds, brings dissatisfaction, but if you plant seeds of contentment, you will find peace and happiness." Tanha, unwilling to understand the deeper meaning, replied, "But why should I settle for less? My desires have given me wealth and power. I should want more." Vipaka, with compassion in his eyes, said, "There is nothing wrong with desire, Tanha. But when desires control us, they trap us in an endless cycle of wanting more. True happiness is not in having more, but in appreciating what we have and finding contentment in every moment. Wealth and power can only give fleeting pleasure, but they cannot provide lasting happiness." Tanha brushed off Vipaka's words and led him to his mansion. It was magnificent, decorated with the finest materials, filled with luxuries. But despite its grandeur, there was an emptiness that Tanha could not explain, an unease that lingered in his heart. Vipaka gently placed his hand on Tanha's shoulder and asked, "You have built a grand house, but is there peace within it? Can your heart rest here?" Tanha looked around and, for the first time, truly felt the hollowness in his life. Despite all his possessions, he realized he was still deeply unhappy. His endless desires had left him restless, always craving more but never feeling fulfilled. Vipaka smiled and said, "Happiness, my friend, is a choice. You can continue planting the seeds of desire, but they will only yield more craving. Or you can choose to cultivate contentment, wisdom, and patience, and find peace in what you already possess. This choice is yours alone." Moved by Vipaka's wisdom, Tanha decided to change his ways. He began to spend more time reflecting on his life, meditating on the present moment, and appreciating the simple things around him. Slowly, his restless mind became calm, and he discovered a deeper happiness within, one that no wealth or material possession could ever provide. Buddha paused for a moment, allowing the story to sink in, and then turned to the king. He said, "Your Majesty, Tanha and Vipaka represent two different paths in life. Tanha, like your son, clings to his wealth and power, believing that more will bring him happiness. But in reality, his desires have made him a prisoner of his own fears. He lives in constant anxiety, worrying that he will lose what he has. This is why your son, despite having everything, is never at peace." Vipaka, however, represents the path of contentment. He has learned that true happiness comes from letting go of attachment and accepting life as it is. Because he does not cling to material things, he is free from fear and anxiety. He lives with an open heart, at peace with himself and the world around him. My monks, like Vipaka, have chosen to renounce worldly desires and embrace a life of simplicity and contentment. They have let go of attachment to possessions and, in doing so, have found true happiness. They are not weighed down by fear because they have nothing to lose. The king, deeply moved by Buddha's words, realized the truth in the story. He understood that his son's unhappiness came not from a lack of luxury, but from his attachment to it. The more the prince clung to his wealth and power, the more fearful he became of losing it. Buddha had shown him that happiness is not something that can be given or taken away. It is a choice we make from within. The king, filled with gratitude, bowed deeply to Buddha. He left the monastery with a newfound understanding of happiness, determined to help his son learn the wisdom of letting go and finding peace within. Remember, happiness is not found in possessions wealth, or power. It is found in the heart that is free from craving and attachment. The fearless are happy because they have renounced their desires. The choice to be happy is one that we make every day. It is not in wanting more, but in letting go of the desire for more. The more we desire, the more restless our minds become. But when we let go of desire, we find peace. If this story touched your heart and gave you a new perspective on happiness, make sure to like this video and share it with those who might also need this message. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you'll never miss our future videos. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How do you practice letting go in your life? Let's continue spreading wisdom and happiness together. Until next time, remember that happiness is a choice, and it begins within you. Thank you for joining us on this journey of wisdom and reflection. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.